Hey, and welcome to Unlearning Stress, the podcast where we break the rules and cycles that keep you overcommitted, overstretched, and just plain exhausted, and replace them with something better. No fluff, no guilt, just real talk, real solutions, and expert insights to help you shift the way you live. Whether you're here for the first time or you've been with me for a while, you're in the right place. I'm Michelle O'Neill, your resident emotional wellness coach, and I'm here to help you unlearn the patterns that are wearing you down so you can live with more ease, clarity, and control. Let's get to it. So, like I said, I don't know about you, but right now I'm kind of loving this fall thing because we seem to be having maybe an Indian summer, a little warm. But beside that, how many of you out there are starting to see that what you crave more than anything else? Of course, we crave time, food, and all that stuff, but a sense of calm, some sense of peace, especially when we deal with so much chaos today. That's the one thing that you kind of want to grasp your hand around, and try to stay in that space. But so let me ask you, have you ever noticed that the only time that your body actually feels calm is when everything is in place? When there's order, at least in the things around you in your home. And I'm not talking about that happy type of calm, but just that finally, that calm that you can have just to breathe, just to say, "Ah, I can get a breath, I can catch a breath." And I'm saying about, when you can just get a break from all that noise in your head, all the things that are going on, all the things that barrage your nervous system that you have to think about, and just where you can get that opportunity for your thoughts to just slow down enough for you to catch your breath, where your chest unclenches and you're not so uptight and your nerves just settle just enough for you to think. How great would it be just to be able to just say, "Ooh, I can think now. I can just give me a moment." How many times have you found yourself saying, "Just give me a moment. Let me think about this. Let me process this. Let me work through this," instead of having to make that on the spot decision all the time. Just that calmness there. And for me, it's like my desk. One of the things, and I'm not going to show you mine right now, but I love a clean desk. I like, and it doesn't have to be clean from I'm not talking about clean from dirt, and I don't want dirt on my desk either. I don't want dust and stuff, but I'm saying clean in where everything has its order. Everything is where it's supposed to be. And I truly believe a place for everything and everything for a place. So, the pencils are where they're supposed to be, the books are where they're supposed to be, the papers are filed away. That's what I'm talking about, unless you're actually working on those papers. And so for me, a clean desk, especially when I'm doing my live or when I want to work with my clients, I need a clean desk. And it's something that I can control, but it allows me the ability to think and focus on what I'm trying to do and not what's around me. Because if I have a bunch of stuff around me, it actually distracts me. And that's not what I want. I don't want that distraction when I'm trying to talk to you, or when I'm trying to take care of business, or when I'm trying to be present and give someone my attention. And so I need that that space, because that's what you're creating, space to breathe. You're creating physical space to be a representation of the emotional and mental space that you need. So when we let those papers stack up, when we let things fall out of place, our whole system is just going off. It's like, whoa, hello, I can't think. And so that's not what we want. So a lot of times we don't want to admit this, but what that is control. We are controlling our space. The one thing that in this instance we have the ability to control, and that's what we want to do. We want to control that. it's it's the only calmness that our nervous system understands. Is when I'm in control, when I control what's going on around me, I seem to be able to feel this sense of calmness. And so we call it being organized, but in reality, it's that only place that we actually get relief. So tell me this: who out there right now really identifies or understand or is tracking what I'm talking about? Who out there, raise your hand. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not going to show you my desk, but I know what I'm talking. So drop a yes, tell me yes, whatever, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you feel this too, or you can identify with this as well. So I want to tell you why having this control, and I kind of peeked into it a little bit, why having this type of control is, it feels so necessary. And what it is, it's that fear that if I'm in control, I can keep things from falling apart. I can keep that fear at bay. And what happens is when we stop controlling, that anxiety, that fear that we're feeling seems to creep in and take over. And fear is in the things that we can't control and that were never in our hands. And a lot of times we think we have more control than we have. And I want to tell you right here now, I'm going to be up front. Most things, especially all external things, you have no control over. You can't control your partner's mood, how they talk to you, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. You can't control your children's choices and the choices that they make, even though we hope above all things that we have taught them how to interact with our others, how to be in society, and we've given them all the skills, but we can't control what they do when they're out of our sight. And if they're grown, we can't control what they do in our sight. We can't control our coworkers and what they're going to do and the growth that they're going to have and whether they're going to follow through. We have no control how they talk about us, whatever. We have no control over these grown adults, and you can't control tomorrow's problem because you don't even know what they are, right? And you can't control the next interruption. Like my phone just went off. I can't control that, but I can, and I'm going to do that. I can put on the do not disturb, which I forgot to do. So I'm going to do that now. See, I am showing you where my control is, even though it doesn't want me to do it. But these are things that we can control. So I'm doing it right now. It is on. And we can't control the next loss or the next interruption I may get. And I can't control my next disappointment. Most of the times, we don't even know that it's coming. So we can't control those things. And so what we do is you grab what you can control: the papers on your desk, the telephone. I could control the do not disturb, right? That was perfect and on time, wasn't it? But I can't control the things that I can't control. And not because that I'm a perfectionist or anything, but it gives me a few moments of peace. Now I know no one else is going to interrupt this live by getting on my phone because I have a do not disturb on it. So I'm not worried about that no more. And I won't look over there anymore because that's not my worry, right? And it's not because, like I said, that I'm a perfectionist, but because I'm tired of living braced, always worried. Anxiety gets in your system and it lives there. And when it lives there, that is hijacking your nervous system. So I want to get honest, really honest with you now. How many of you How many of you stay busy because stillness feels dangerous? Have you ever been in that position where just doing nothing feels dangerous? Like maybe you're missing something, or maybe there was something you were supposed to do, or all those what ifs. And if that's you, I want you to raise your hand or say me. I'm not saying, where you are. I'm not saying I'm gonna see it, but be honest with yourself. If that's you, if being quiet, if dealing with stillness just rives or rivs up, that's the word I want to do, your nervous system, raise your hand. Yeah, that's me. Own up to it. So controlling other people is not your real battle. I want to say that up front. I mean, we always say I can't control how other people act, and you're right, but that's not your real battle. The real fight, and that's what I really want to talk about today, is controlling yourself, controlling yourself in the moment. And that's the part that nobody talks about. Not at all. Nobody talks about that. This is where the actual war is. The war, the real war, like I said, is in the fact that we are fighting the controlling ourselves. See, lost my thought, but I'm back with you. And it feels like we're trying to rein in a wild horse inside of your chest. It feels like that we you ever do something and your mouth wants to say something, right? And your face wants to change. Your tone wants to pop off. So anyone ever say something to you and you're thinking, hmm, and you just want to say what you really feel, but that self-control says, pull it back, girl. Come on, pull it back. You can think the right thing in that instance, but feeling it and acting on it is different. And that's the kind of control I'm talking about. That's the part that actually gets you when you feel a certain way and you want to react a certain way, but you're deciding in that what millisecond, you're deciding, wow, am I going to act on how I feel, or am I going to rein it in and control myself? And logically, you know the truth. You've told yourself, I can't control them, right? I can only control me. You say it, you believe it, you know it, but emotionally, and you see, I'm going to make sure you get this. Emotionally, that doesn't drop into your body that easy. Your feelings still jump and you feel first. Your nerves are still on fire. Your heart is still beating fast, but you're saying, I'm trying to control what I'm feeling. I'm trying to control how I act in this instance. So, say you're at work and someone says something sideways, right? And you feel that hit your body before your brain even catches up, because it's going to hit. And your first reaction is to pop off on them, to say something. Now you're standing there thinking to yourself, before you let it out your mouth, Lord, give me a second. Because if I respond the way I'm feeling right now, this whole meeting is about to take a turn. Because they're going to see a side of me that they don't like. Your whole system is saying, react now, defend now, fix it now. And that pause, that moment there that you hold yourself, that's the hardest part. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about self control. because we all strive for self control. But a lot of times we don't want to maintain that self control. I used to hear people say, just gather your thoughts. But what they didn't say is how hard gathering your thought was when your emotions were loud. Nobody prepares us for that pause, that little space where you're not reacting yet, you know, and you're not ready to respond either. So you're in this space of, this is how I want to react, but I really should respond this way. And that's that tug of war that you're having inside that I talk about. And this is why I tell my ladies all the time, girl, it's okay to step back. It's okay to say nothing for a moment. It's okay to gather yourself first, right? That right there. That's the difference between reaction and response. We don't want to be a reactor. Reactors are dangerous. When I think of nuclear reactor, they're dangerous. But we do want to be responders. That's what we're striving for. And sometimes, even at home, the most mature thing that you can say, give me a moment. Just give me a moment. You have ever done that? That finger? Not because you don't care, but because you do care and you don't want to say or do something that you're going to regret later. You're protecting that relationship from what your emotions want to do in that second because you're not thinking straight. You're protecting yourself from saying something that you can't take back. And here's the truth. The hardest part about controlling yourself is that you don't always want to. Your emotions want to run. Your nerves want to just fire off, and your mouth, woo, it wants to move. You want that release. You want that reaction. And you want the moment of, I said what I said. It deserved it. And I said what I said. But that's not control. That's survival. And survival always, always, always comes with a cost. So who out here, who knows that moment where your whole body wants to react, but something in you say, hold on, not like this. Girlfriend's not going out like this, not like this. So I want you to share with me, do you need space when you're upset? Are you that person? Or do you need silence? Because some of us just need to just remove ourselves and get that space. And then sometimes it's just a matter of just give me a moment. Don't say anything, but you need silence. Who out there has said, give me a moment, and knew that that was the most grown woman thing that you could have done? And I remember someone telling me in a group that I was in that they how they were so proud of the way that they reacted in a certain situation at work and was able to control themselves and walk away and ask for that moment. This is where acceptance come in. It's about admitting that controlling yourself is actually in that moment is hard. I mean, accept it's hard. It's not going to be easy because your feelings and your emotions are all in the way. That is strength, quiet strength, real strength. And so let me tell you something that we don't like to talk about. Just because we control ourselves, I just said this, But I want to reiterate it. Doesn't mean we like it. Most of the time, self control does not feel good. It doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel rewarding. And it feels like we're giving something up. Giving something up. Can't even talk because I'm worried about this live. But I'm going to concentrate here with you. We're human. We want what we want. And when we try to control a situation, what we're really doing is usually because we're trying to get that what we want. We go into every situation knowing what we're looking to get out of that situation, what we're looking to gain. How many times can you say, I went into it not knowing? I had no idea what I wanted. Oh, you knew what you wanted. And that's the honest truth. We're not controlling because we're mean or bossy. What we're doing is we're controlling because we're trying to protect what matters to us most, right? But here's the part we hate. Self-control doesn't mean that you're choosing something that you don't want to choose. You're choosing the calmer response when you want to pop off. You're choosing silence when you want to react. You're choosing to walk away instead of pushing your point. And you're choosing to accept how someone's feeling, even when it hurts. You may not like what they're saying, but you're accepting that that's what they feel, and we can't control it. Because when we don't control ourselves, we don't magically get the outcome we want. Just because we're working towards the thing we want doesn't mean we magically, all of a sudden, it magically happens for us, right? What happens is we start manipulating the situation. We're trying to move them, push them, change them, force them, and force the result. That's what we're doing. And that's manipulation. And deep down, we know that's not who we want to be. At least not me. Mel Robbins says in her book, The Let Them Theory, she says, let them. And she's right. Let people feel how they feel. Let people respond how they respond. But here's the part nobody talks about. If you're going to let them, then you also have to let me. And that's part of her theory. Let me decide who I'm going to be. Let me decide how I'm going to show up. And let me choose my own behavior, not theirs. The hardest part of acceptance is this right here. Other people have the right to their own reaction. We can't control them. They have the right to their own tone, their mood, their decisions, their disappointments. That's theirs, right? And you have the right and the responsibility to decide what you do next. Your partner snaps. You can't control that, but you can control if you match their energy or not. And that's a hard one. I'm going to tell you right now. You can't force wisdom, but you can control how you guide, how you listen, how you hold your boundary. Your coworker shows out, shows some shade. You can't fix their insecurity because that's where it's coming from. Still, you can control your professionalism and your peace, how you're going to show up in that moment. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop wanting what you want. It means you stop forcing it. Did you get that difference there? I'm not saying don't want what you want. I'm saying it's about stop forcing it. You stop trying to bend or control other people, right? You stop trying to shape that outcome. You stop trying to twist situations in your favor, not because you're weak or you give in, because you're grown. You're grown. Look, and you're in control. You're not giving up a part of yourself. What you're doing is you're giving up the fight that keeps you exhausted. You're choosing the adult response, not the emotional reaction. And that is not loss. I can't say that enough. That's strength. That is self-respect. Tell me in the chat, what's one area where you know that you've been trying to force an outcome? I want you to get honest with yourself. Where you've been pushing to make something happen just because it's what you want. Who here has had to walk away from an argument so that you didn't lose yourself? Ooh. Where do you feel this most in your life? Is it at work, at home, in your relationship? Where do you feel this tug of war the strongest? Acceptance isn't giving up control. What it is taking back the only control that you actually have, and that's yourself. And that's not just enough. That's where your peace comes in. So, before we close, I want to give you something real. Something that you can actually use today, tomorrow, tonight, in the middle of a conversation that you didn't even plan. Because acceptance isn't something that you say. It's something that you do in the moment when your emotions want to lead the way, right? And if you're going to accept what's yours and what's not, you need something that's going to help you stay steady. And so I call this pause, or the pause that protects you. And it's 5 seconds. But we're going to take a little longer right now, and only because it's going to take a moment for us. 5 seconds. And these 5 seconds will keep you from reacting in a way that costs you your peace. 5 seconds that help you rest in who God has made you, not who the moment tries to turn you into, that beast. This is the kind of thing that you only learn when you've lived long enough to realize that not every feeling deserves a mouth, right? And not every situation needs your reaction. And being right is not worth losing who you are. So I want you to remember 2 phrases. That's theirs. And this is where I decide who I am. So I want you to take a slow inhale, because you're going to do it. Just enough air to interrupt that moment. And in your mind, you say, that's theirs. That's their tone, their reaction, their disappointment, their insecurity, their chaos. And this part does not belong to me. And what you're doing is you're naming what isn't yours to carry in this moment. And that's your boundary. And then you're saying, this is where I decide who I am. And you exhale. And you say quietly in your mind, this is where I decide who I am. Not who they pulled me into. Not who the moment tempts me to be. Not who old habits or what old habits trained you to do. This is where I stand as the woman that God has made me, right here, right now. This is where I choose steadiness over reaction, clarity over noise, and identity over impulse, right? Because here's what I know: God never rushed you into who you are, He formed you with intention and love, not reaction. And so every time you choose steadiness, you're not holding back. You're returning to what He's already put in you. You can use this in a meeting when someone speaks sideways to you. You can use this with your adult child when they forget the respect that you taught them. And you can use this with a partner when that tone shifts and you feel your shoulders rise. You can even use this while you're driving in traffic. Yes, even there. Because some of y'all lose all your, what I call the fruit of the spirit: kindness, compassion, love, behind the wheel. That's when that monster, that road monster comes out, right? So, who already knows this was have saved you? This exercise that we just went through. Remember? That's theirs. And this is where I decide who I am or who I want to be. Who already knows that this would have saved you from at least one mess this week? One thing that popped up in your life this week. If you would have reminded yourself as you inhale, that's theirs. That's their chaos. That's their failure, not mine. And right now, I'm going to decide how I show up and who I am. Right? Just that. You see, 5 seconds. Go ahead and tell me, where do you need this 5-second pause the most? Does it happen more to you at work, or more to you at home, or in your relationships, or with your kids, or in the community, or in the car? Where does it show up most? Because every time you use this practice, you strengthen the part of you that knows how to stay whole. You stop giving the moment power, and you stop letting other people's behavior shape your identity. And you grow into the woman with a capital W that you know you were created to be. This is how you practice acceptance. It's doable, isn't it? Not by forcing yourself to be okay, because that doesn't last, but by choosing who you are in the middle, of what you can't control. So, all right, let's breathe this in for a moment, because you've just done a lot of honest work. That's what we did here today. You've told the truth about control, about fear, about responsibility, about the pause that protects you, right? You told the truth about the control. And now I want to leave you with something simple, something that you can carry into the rest of the week. Everything we talked about today, all of it comes back to one thing. This is where you decide who you are. That simple phrase. This is where I decide who I am. Not when life is calm, not when people are easy. I wish they would. Not when everything lines up. Right in the middle of real life, this is where you choose the woman that you are, the woman that you are, and the woman that you are becoming. right there in the middle. And I want you to hear me here. God didn't create you to live braced, to live your whole life like this. He designed you with the center, a place inside that's steady, honest, and whole, right? You're not learning how to become someone else. Not at all. You're learning how to return to that beautiful person you made. Beautifully and wonderfully made. One of my favorite verses. So this week, when that moment hits you, and you know it will, right? I want you to try that 5-second pause. The pause to peace. That's theirs. And this is where I decide who I am. Those 2 sentences will save you from saying things that you really don't mean. You feel, but in your heart of hearts, you probably don't mean them, or not in the way that they would have come out of your mouth. And losing pieces of yourself that you can't afford to lose. You're going to need this in your workday. You're going to need this in your marriage. You're going to need this with your grown kids and your younger kids. And you're going to need this with yourself. Because acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about stepping into who you are when you're not driven by fear. And before we go, let me say this. I'm building something phenomenal. And it's not ready yet, but it's coming. And it's a space where women like us can breathe, can be real, can learn from each other, and can learn these rhythms that I'm talking about together. And it's a space where you don't have to perform to be seen, where your strength and your softness both get a seat at the table. And it's a big table. And I'm calling it the undivided, because that's what we're becoming. Undivided. Undivided in alignment to who we are and how we show up in our lives, and undivided as a community and a whole, where we support, encourage, and lift up each other. It's women who live whole, not split, not frantic, and not proving. And I'll tell you more soon. But I wanted you to know it's coming. And if you felt yourself exhaling today, it's who I'm trying to become, or who I am. You're going to want to be part of the undivided, right? So, with all the tech things and all the issues that we had today, I am so glad that you've been here with me. I am so glad. And that's enough for today. Let this settle. And remember, you don't have to control everything to be okay. You just need to stay rooted in who you are and who God says you are. Rest well. And I'll see you next week. Take care. If this episode hits home, don't just push it aside. Lean into it. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And connect with me on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Substack, where we go even deeper. Links will be in the comments. And if you're ready to start unlearning the patterns that keep you stuck, keep listening, because real change happens one choice at a time. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.